challenges and strategies to overcome. First, one would have to recognize what were the challenges. Then only one can strategize to see how to overcome. Usually, for a teacher, the biggest challenge to me it was not much about the technology, but to learn how to talk to a computer. And that was the most disastrous experience. I think I hold this view that a mistake by a doctor, say during a surgery or as part of diagnosis, perhaps will kill a few patients. A mistake by a teacher would kill a generation. So this is what has been happening ever since the pandemic and closure of colleges and schools have started. We are subjecting young generation to a slow poisoning, slow killing. I'm sorry to say this, but I part of this massacre. I had to be part of this very reluctantly. When March the closure was announced, my course was just about, just into little over the midway mark, and I had to close all activities related to that. And there comes the first reaction, and it was a knee-jerk reaction from my side. I said, I'm not going to teach, I'm not going to talk to a computer. Whatever grades you have till midsem, good for you. Graduate and go. So I refused to teach initially because Institute also gave an option, teach or not to teach, and you can have your own evaluation schemes. So I did not react to that. Peak of first wave, and then Senate resolution that IIT Bombay is moving online, Indian Express, Times of India, everybody happily reporting that, oh, this is a new normal. All right. So then Institute sends out 2 to 3 emails every other day that, look, this is how you can get prepared, content creation, execution, movie editing, audio in one track, video in another track. And these are the software, these are the writing pads available for every damn thing. There were 100 different suggestions. So I've gone through an orientational disorder as to what to pick, what not to pick. I started asking around people, what would be the simplest way of teaching a class, if at all I am forced to do so? And they said, yeah, you can use Google Meet. All right. So I had not used it before. Yeah, that's fine. You just click on some buttons. So I started practicing myself. My biggest bottleneck or hurdle was I was teaching a class of 360 students. So how I am going to manage an activity which I enjoy to the core, walking into every freshman classroom day one of instruction. And I've cherished those moments of, walking in soon after the math lecture, 2 to 3 p.m., 3:30 is math lecture. And people are like, first dose of MA, whatever, first dose of math in IIT is such a shocker. And that is the time I very quietly walk into that LA 101 room where I typically teach in the lecture hall complex. So I walk in very quietly. And in early years, I had the advantage of looking young, and students would not realize that, oh, we may be somebody else, may not be a prof. So I just go set up my computer slowly and then fix the collar mic. Then few from the crowd would realize that maybe he's a prof or maybe a TA. But now I lost that advantage because I have bald hair and people recognize must be a prof. So they started appreciating my job. Okay, I'm here to teach, and I lost all that fun. There is no eye-to-eye contact, which is central to effective teaching. The essence of teaching is to connect with people. And in online, you can connect with any stranger, but not to your students. It is as sad as that. Okay. And then in preparation to CH105, in the sense that, so when I was very convinced that, yes, I have to do this freshman classes online, and it was summertime, lockdown at its peak, and nobody in my laboratory, nobody in my office, and I was here all 7 days a week, and I started preparing. How would I execute this? I have decided very clearly that I'm not going to use slides, because the moment I turn to full screen mode, I don't see anyone on the other side. Then what I did, you might have seen, I decided I'm going to go back. So people are moving ahead in technology. People are becoming Zoomers. They are becoming Google, Google Meters and whatever. And I thought that I will go one step back and I will go to Blackboard. Of course, it was whiteboard. Ironically, it is whiteboard with black fonts. So I decided I will go in a standing posture where the teacher is visible to the students. So are the content of what I am trying to communicate. I thought that would be a different way of doing things. I was unwilling to watch how my colleagues are doing, how other faculty are doing, because if I see 10 people do something, I have no interest in doing that. So because of which I did not watch a representative video, I asked a colleague, can you send me a link of your video? So I got a video where the person is sitting in a chair and writing something on the right pad. I hardly had a right pad at that time. Now I have one. Okay, I'm quite good in drawing structures and stuff. So that time I did not even have a writing pad, like the so-called teaching devices. I was not prepared at all. And then I thought, okay, let me stand and write on the board. So I recorded a few videos myself, that how bad it looked. That was my expectation. I really wanted to know how bad it looks, how bad it is. I had no hope that, so I did not even turn my galvanometer to the other side to see how good it is. I was trying to assess how bad it would be. That was only hope. So I said, usually I'm an optimist, but in this case, I wanted to see how bad I perform in front of camera. Am I camera conscious? Am I okay with bright lights? Because I kept 2 lights, pedestal lamps on either side, so that the board is visible, not absolutely not how I look, which I don't much care. Back to some of my course evaluations, somebody once written that sir should take care of his health. Okay, so got used to a lot of this sizist remarks in the past. So with that said, I did some trial run, recorded in my video recording software. I think it comes default loaded into Mac computers. So I used that and I tried to do some editing, spent hours and days. Then I realized that, okay, I'm one of those uncensored person. I'm not going to do any editing because it's just waste of time. And I gave up on editing from first practice rounds itself. Then I realized that my voice is not very good. So fortunately, I have a son in the age group as yours, 18, 19 years old. So he's now 19. So naturally, your generation is so good with all the technology. I said that, hey, my voice is not picked up well by the laptop. Then he said, yeah, I will help you. Those online orders, Amazon used to deliver anything those days. So he got me a collar mic using. So voice problem taken care, light problem taken care, then standing posture, visibility of what I write and the angle at which it is recorded. So I made a very careful examination of my trial videos to perfect it to the extent that, look, I'm going to teach 300 plus students in this mode. So it has to be good. It has to be effective. And slow and steady, I started accepting that, okay, I'm going to talk to this computer, but I will turn to the board and write, I will talk to this computer. Still, I'm not happy. It is bothering me. It is bugging me. I figured out, how about using 2 devices? Okay, so I started exploring. So I had another computer just adjacent to the place where I was standing, and that computer is projected onto the wall. So there is a projection system where I just view the participants, because I'm anyway not using screen share. So as long as participants come with their videos on, I can see the class. So I had developed this immersive feel of teaching a real class. They are virtually there, they're listening to me and nodding their head. Okay, this is what it is. And that so inspiring that you're talking to genuine people on the other side. And if you try to crack a joke, like an absolute disaster in the online mode, I tried a few times. I call it PJs, poor jokes, which I admittedly take. Some PJs worked out well, and because I saw people were laughing. Okay, so fine. After 2-3 lectures, I thought, yeah, I think it's okay. It's going well. And then I started distributing unedited video. and they were takers for that. They were downloads, they were whatever. So people started making use of that, and there were even questions which I used to get from students that, sir, in this video number, lecture number 4, from 31 minutes 40 seconds to 33 minutes 25 seconds, I did not understand. Because yes, people are viewing it in front of camera. People are taking it seriously. People are viewing it. So I was inspired, and so I got used to. Although I have never wholeheartedly accepted this exercise of teaching a computer, but I had to do it. So it was a near give up to begin with, but slowly I recovered from this pain of accepting the reality. I had accepted, tried to do multiple innovations as part of teaching. How do you engage the class? So it took support from TAs who would moderate the questions, because in a typical classroom setup, your batch may not know. In every 10 minutes, I encourage people raise their hands. Here. And I go and give them the collar mic, because it's large auditorium. So questions should be heard by all, so that class can participate in discussion. So I engage the class by taking live questions in the real physical classroom. So in this online mode, with the help of TAs, they moderated the question, and the students will ask. So I tried that, but halfway through the lecture series, I realized that I have made almost negligible progress with the syllabus. Progress with the syllabus. And then I have also, Institute told us that do not exceed a minute. If it is 3:30 to 5, sharp, stop at 5. So I stopped at 5 formally. I stopped recording at 5. But I stayed on and on and on. Some days I got relieved by 7:30. Okay, classes were over by 5, but I stayed on because people had so many questions, and I just kept on answering. That is off the record. So I stayed on, but that also was quite pleasurable. But in that one-to-one interaction, students were with their videos on. So I was genuinely talking to real people, not talking to a computer. So it was towards the later part of the course, I think I started enjoying a little bit because the connect with actual people asking questions, and to re-engage the class and attention, I used to play pranks. As in real classroom, the pranks were far more, but in the virtual classroom, I played a blank slide prank in the orientation lecture, and it said something to the tune of $prompt attention check.py. So it was a Python script checking whether people are around or not, and then I kept quiet. I just kept quiet. So people thought that connection lost, or they were about to restart their computer, wondering how come a Python script is running without my knowledge, and so on. So I played a prank, and the aftermath of that prank appeared after 2 days when there was some announcement from the institute that we got deregistered from. A few of them prank, sir, is it a prank? I called up academic office and wrote back to those people that this is a system related issue. I'm not responsible. It was not my prank. It was probably a prank by the institute. So that means the prank in day one did work. Okay. And hence they got a taste for whom are they interacting with, who is this guy who is teaching your dreaded subject organic chemistry. So I tried to do some change of perception, change of mindset. Oh, even after JEE, you still have to study organic chemistry. Of course, you have to study organic chemistry. So I tried to do whatever best I could in the online mode. It turned out to be reasonably okay. So in terms of adaptation, to summarize this block, adaptation, it was painful for me to accept that this is real, that you have to talk to computer. Second, ramping up to actual delivery of the class, several hours spent learning many tools. Even use of Zoom was new to me. Technologically, I'm not an advanced person. I don't want to describe because this will go to YouTube, etc. So technologically, I'm not a gadget person at all in any stretch of imagination. So with that said, classes started, went reasonably well. interactions, video feeds from students, immersive classroom setup, which I've done using device number 2. It was meant just for the class and its visibility. And the exchanges between me and students turned out to be so good that I got the feel that yes, they are serious about what I'm teaching. And a lot of this Facebook postings for doubt clearance, because I stay connected during the course of the semester with my ch103.org Facebook page, and only people who take my course are eligible to be members there. So I interacted a lot with this online batch in the Facebook as well. So it was in summary, it was a good and new experience. So I would like to end by giving a positive twist to the disaster, that I kind of liked it towards the end. But this is no substitute for real class. It's no substitute. And I would argue that if it is genuinely a substitute, all the pending applications for commercial flying license and four-wheeler license, all the pending applications should be approved because they have done the virtual online training of flying. Okay, so I'm of that opinion. So that is my response. The first thing which I think I learned is to accept certain very bad realities. I was completely not prepared online classes as a replacement for classroom teaching. I was forced to do very reluctantly. I think that is the biggest thing which I had to accept, that I refused to do it. I kept on fighting against the entire episode of online teaching, because I was very sensitive to the fact that the internet coverage in our country is so poor. It is centered around the metros, but it was not an assured guarantee that providing device to a student such as a laptop is not going to solve the problem. And the uninterrupted internet connectivity, mobile hotspot, these are all quick fix solutions. So I was deeply concerned a good fraction of students will be completely cut off from when a class is on. And even downloading the entire video of a 1.5 hour lecture can be formidable. You cannot be assured of such download speed and uninterrupted connection throughout the download. So I was concerned about depriving people of their right to get educated, because they have struggled so hard to be in the IIT system, and IIT is not allowing them to come back to the campus, right? But it was not IIT, but it was government policy for whatever safety reasons. So I was learning to accept all these as realities. That was the biggest adaptation which I had to do. Second thing, as I mentioned, talking to a computer became so real. Now I'm very comfortable, even with blank screen, I can talk to a computer. Maybe I think it's a good way to take your frustration out. You shout at your computer, right? As long as you don't damage it, you can shout and record and go back and re-look at later how bad you look when you are angry, right? So yeah, that was again an adaptation thing. It helped me learn. I think I became more comfortable with this technology. I'm quite comfortable with Zoom, for example. Google Meet, I teach the postgraduate courses on Google Meet. And I must also tell you, and I have mentioned this to many of my colleagues, I just don't like Microsoft Teams. Very intrusive, which I don't like. As a person, you have seen a glimpse of me as a teacher. Maybe if you search Google, a glimpse of me as a scientist. But no one knows about me as a person of the society. I stay off the grid, and which I mentioned in the class. I stay off the grid. So you will not find much about me until a Wikipedia shows up something. So yeah, so this technology adaptation was something which I learned. I wouldn't have learned if not for the pandemic. And then learning how to lower the expectation, that was another huge thing, that my research group was completely in shambles, broken apart, people working from their home, not working from their home, all sorts of issues. Had to accept all these, that the competitive research that we were part of, we have been into for many years, the competitive research, many of my competitors from other countries have overtaken us. So I have to accept this as a sad reality, what pandemic had done to us. The positives are that learn how to lower the expectation to the extent that you don't expect anything, but if something comes up, maybe it's good. So I have become more practical in dealing with bad situations, bad negative situations in life. So it did contribute something to the positive side of the personality. I make a lot of young friends every year. They recognize me later in Indigo Tech Fest. They recognize me in corridor, in coffee shack, and they come and talk to me. Sir, how are you doing? And some conversation will be just few minutes. Some would be hours together. But I completely lost that connect. So unfortunately, I do not have any new friends from this online batch. All previous batches with whom I interact, and some of them graduated 15 years ago, they are still in touch with me. So that is the biggest miss, the human-to-human contact that I really missed. Second is the voice response and facial expressions that you would get to see as a teacher. It is a very gratifying and satisfying experience to have taught something, and when people nod their head with delight, with some sort of worry that I did not quite get it, but they don't say that. But I read out from face and I repeat what I have to say until the concept is clear to them. And the so-called poor jokes, no point in cracking a joke in online mode because everybody is muted, correct? So you don't hear a response, and you crack a joke to the computer and you laugh yourself, no fun at all. But in a physical classroom, I train my students from day one that how to celebrate. Okay, this is going to be a fun series of lectures, how to celebrate. And the different modes are trained. I cannot tell this in a public forum. This is a private secret in my class, LA 101. And people are trained how to celebrate. Rather, I would say people are trained how to make noise in my class. How to make noise. And then I talk about a theorem in physics. When you clap together, it reaches a steady frequency in first 20 seconds or something, a concept of resonance and all. So I permit people to clap in my lectures so that my poor jokes will survive for longer. Loud clap and woo celebration, all those I miss in online. And my last day of the lecture, last day, I give an assurance that you guys, next 4 years here, any problem whatsoever, feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to give my inputs, opinion, career counseling. Feeling low, I can address a lot of these issues. And there is another YouTube video on the same topic, Life of a Prof, where I am giving assurance that I can handle a lot of human problems. I can give my share of perspective to that. So I tell this typically in a last class of the lecture series. And when I literally complete 5... before I walk away from the classroom, there would be a pandemonium, no exaggeration. There would be such a huge cheer sending me off that I completely missed in this batch. I mean, that is like, so satisfying and so rewarding that I would have thought about like 12, 14 lectures, and association is not more than a month and a half. But the connect that I always establish, I was privileged to have got connected with young people, and I just couldn't sense it this time, which is probably the biggest thing which I missed, the last day, last minute of the lecture series. I just didn't have one. Having said this, I do remember your batch holding thank you placard.
Thank you.
That was a clear online expression of the new gen, the full grid, whatever I could view in Zoom, pages after pages. People are holding their thank you. That was very, very satisfying indeed. But what I missed is the sound effect, right? The whole class, the people who are support staff who wait outside to, come in and turn off the collar mic and do the electrical switching off, etc. They always wonder is there a class or not? Is it is a class? Yes, there is. And it is the last 1 minute of the lecture series, and people make so much noise. I could not have an audio response, but I do have a video response this time. I've taken screen snapshot and I've kept it in as a precious asset in my on my desktop. It's still there. Yeah. I felt most tired before beginning.
Yeah.
I energized. And then when this first wave was about to, taper off, I was like very upset and angry. Why are students not allowed to come back? I was very angry, and I have even tried my level best in arguing in certain meetings, arguing for students to be back. And then I was cornered by back that will you take responsibility and all. Like, how can I take responsibility? So I have gone through my second wave of frustration when I was given to understand that students are not going to be allowed to come back. That was bad. That was bad, and gearing up for another online disaster. That is another online semester. That was the second shocker of the second wave. Again, you had no choice but to do it. And then all and everything about exams, all aspect and every aspect about exams, I was terribly upset. I was not happy. I was even willing to give free grades for whatever metric you may want to use, but I was completely against online exams because we know our country so much. We know our country. If you reach a level where you can leave your laptop in a second class rail coach, go and spend half an hour with a friend in another dabba and come back, laptop is still untouched. That is the time I will promote online exams. We have not reached that level. We are not reached that level. Even the most honest people cannot be trusted when it comes to online exams because the temptation is so high. Because Mother Google is always there in the same browser on the other side with another device. Oh, you are so tempted to look at, what is the electron affinity of chlorine? You would be tempted to look at. You cannot blame them because you cannot have nice food served on the table and tell them not to eat. Very difficult. So I don't trust online exams at all. So that is another bad part. I got tired at the end of first wave because I hope that students will come back. I got tired of this entire episode of online teaching. I got sick and tired of news media because they started celebrating the pandemic by installing fear factor in every individual's mind. And I'm not even talking about the nonsense which was propagating on every matter, whether this vaccine is better than this. So there is, every minute there is something or other. But news media, every media house, I think they have done a lot of good things, but at the same time they found a easiest option for TRP improvement by filling with 30 minutes of COVID news every day in prime time. So I got tired of that as well. So I used to read scientific journals and government websites where things are not hyped, facts are presented, mostly facts are presented. So I started deriving my own inferences from how based on this data, how the pandemic is spreading, how close are we to a vaccine, how close are we to an antiviral drug, etc. So I was doing my own research without looking at the news media propaganda. So that is another thing which I got tired of. News, yes, I got tired of news during the pandemic. Oh my God, I've seen one at my home. I feel really sorry for the kids who are in first standard, second standard. Yeah. It's all vaccine. I think we have denied them of a good childhood by we don't have a solution. I'm not preaching that we could have done it alternatively or anything else, but it is so sad that students, young kids do not go to school, and college the problems are different. 4 years BTech program, 2 years at home. What the hell? 50% of BTech is gone, and people studied so hard to come to IIT Bombay for those Mood Eyes and Tech Fest, right? No Tech Fest and no ESL, and it's so sad to see. These are irreparable damages. The college early day transition from school to college, Those first years are so much formative, so much internal growth, growing into a personality, outlook, perspectives about life, and how do you deal with problems, learning from the most chill guys around to the most tense person in the next door, in the next room, in the same wing, and adjusting to the worst of the food that you can imagine. Do you call it dal? Yeah, this is not how it tastes. This is not how it looks. So you get used to, fine, this is what I can eat. So all this getting adaptation skills in the first 2 years, I do not know, that is all missed. When you come at a senior level that is already spent 2 years virtually and come to campus, you really don't have a senior to advise you. You don't have a junior to boss around. And the connection in the preceding and succeeding blocks are lost. So you are in a vacuum. That is bad. You are in a social vacuum because you don't have immediate connectivity to either of the batches, -1 and +1 batch. That is bad. That means you lost your rollback and you don't have your junior. So it's all a big irreparable loss, because IIT is about peer group. IIT is about friends. These are lifelong friendship that lasts, lifelong connects that you make. And that connect through online, I'm not sure. You might have planned many such events and all, but in real, hanging out late night in hostel canteen, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., then getting up for 8:30 lecture and then sleeping longer, go to hell 8:30, I'm not going. So these kind of things, I mean, where is college without all this? So that is sad part. I still feel sorry for, all the batches who have to go through this. Yeah. Bombay, the best place I like? That's a good question. I have not thought about it. Lakeside is one place for boathouse, for example. It's quite woody, rich in forest attributes such as woody climbers, birds, even Indian hornbill, you can sight them over there in boathouse visit, and it gives a very silent feel, away from road traffic, away from honking sound, and even people are not around. Occasionally you can sight leopards and stuff over there. Crabs, it's a very nice ecosystem. I think that is probably the best place I would recommend. But then if you ask me how many times did you go there, I think I have gone there maybe 4 times in 20 years. Okay. I think if you reduce the frequency of visit to once in 4 years, you will cherish that more than visiting 40 times in 4 years. Lakeside, including boathouse, is one beautiful place. I think naturally that is the best part of IIT. And personally, I like lecture hall complex as these huge pillars because it's a 4-storied building. Huge pillars. It would take 2-3 people to make a chain around the pillar. That big it is. 2-3 people holding hands. So it's that big. Around that pillar, after my lectures at 5 p.m. until about 7:30, people would be surrounding that pillar because I'm sitting there right in the middle with these molecular models to show them. And initially there will be a lot of people, and then it would fizzle off to 2-3, very less number of people, but high enthu people. We discuss quantum theory to stellar origin of the universe. Anything that comes under the sun, we keep on discussing until they get tired. I don't get tired. So one place I like for my role as a teacher, although aesthetically it is the most hopeless place you can see. The buildings in IIT Bombay is really hopeless. There is no work of art. Buildings are so hopeless. There is no work of art anywhere in any of our buildings. So it's a boring place otherwise. It's the people that make the place a place. So in that way, I like boathouse, lakeside, and then this pillar. The place below the pillar, nothing attractive there. But it is the people and the surrounding that makes it a special place for me. I'm a listener of music. very keen on sound, the finest or the subtle difference between different instruments, sound from nature. Can I recognize a bird based on its chirping sound, and a bird based on several sorts of bird in a group of birds? Can I distinguish this bird versus that bird? So I have sharpened my ears for a lot of these sensory perception about sound. So I like sound, all forms of music, East Asian to African to Western classical, Indian classical, Hollywood, Bollywood, whatnot, the full spectrum. No particular bias towards a particular form. And on a fine day, I would enjoy classical music, but another day I would really like this Bollywood pure dance songs, which has no meaning. Enjoy that. This is not really a hobby, but I enjoy this. But a hobby that I have, if you ask me, I'm a keen observer of my surrounding, where I sit, where I walk, where I drive, where I move around. Keen observer of anything, which includes birds, butterfly, cows or bulls around, dogs around, humans around. And that is one of my hobbies, to collect data about all these, creations. Collect data. What data I collect? How do they walk? How do they move around? Details just for my assimilation, my own inference. I usually don't share with anyone because it's, it would look as though you're too close to getting branded as a nutcase. So I think I should keep up my image. So I don't share this with many people, but then I collect a lot of this based on my observation about the leaves, plants, and all this. That is another hobby. And keeping touch with current affairs is another thing which I do. Used to be a cricket enthusiast in the past. I played for school cricket team, played in college. Used to play even as late as 2015 in gym ground. I used to play with my own PhD students, but now not much such activity. So sports I like, general affairs, politics, global politics, automobiles, music, movies, movie critic I would say. Movie critic. I enjoy watching movies and form my own critic. I never read about a movie before watching it. I don't listen to anyone who talks about a movie. If I happen to listen, I don't watch that movie. So I like all these kind of things. It's very boring to give advice. But if I wish to say, if you compel me to say something which students may like it, is to explore, and go to an extent where you realize where your limitations are. Work towards resolving it. If you realize that fear is your biggest problem, shyness is your biggest problem, lack of confidence is your biggest problem, speech is your biggest problem, anything which you deem as your limitation during college, make sure that you work on those and transform yourself, addressing those limitations, and completely transform into a new person, because you have the greatest of opportunities to do so. And you can do it. No fun in being an ordinary person. Try to be extraordinary. You're all extraordinary people, but you are one among the sheep who follow the shepherd. Don't be a sheep. Enjoy the fun. Never take paths which everyone else had taken. Take the path like Robert Frost says, which is less taken. He is the one which will ensure you more fun and more thrill, and you can do it. And I think it is about doing extraordinary things, believing in yourself. These are standard advice, although it is boring, but I think some among you will make a connect with what I am trying to convey, that you can do virtually, literally anything that you set your mind on. Want to be a musician, you can be one. Want to be a drams person, IIT uses a lot of these short lingos, right? So dramatics, you want to be a drams person, you can be one. You want to make a movie, you can make one. You want to study hard, get the highest of CPI, you can be. But you set your goal. You define what your goals are. you will realize what your boundaries are and further your boundaries, extend your boundaries, reach the ceiling of your personal capability. Look at others for inspiration, not from an angle of jealous. That is not going to take you anywhere. Overcome jealous factor. Look at others to derive inspiration. I want to be like her. I want to be like him. I will work towards that. She is so smart. I want to be as smart as her. He's so good. I want to be as good as him. So let your so-called competitors be your inspiration, rather than feeling jealous about their accomplishment. I think that is a simple message that is more practical than giving a tons of advice. Study hard, don't do this, do's and don'ts. I don't believe in any of those. It won't work. It won't work. Okay. Yeah. Finally, all the best. Enjoy your college